Hey, I'm Sarah. Welcome to my art studio in Owen Sound, Ontario. We have a couple different big paintings on the go that are also going to be filmed for tutorials. But really quick, I have decided to paint something small and quick for you. So we're going to have a time limit of 2 hours to create a wildlife painting. This is kind of a study I'm doing for possibly a large mural project that might be happening around town here in Owen Sound. So we're going to do a study of this beautiful little hummingbird I just finished. So it took 2 hours and 3 minutes to paint. And we are going to just go through the footage now with my random commentary, and I may add a little bit in post, we'll see. But yeah, I haven't really posted anything since 2002 here, but the channel's grown to over 3,000 people, which is amazing. So thank you so much for watching and hanging out with us here. And yeah, we are going to be editing my backlog of footage shortly, but I just didn't know where to start, whether we should go chronologically or by what I think the most interest would be in, trying to figure it all out. But anyway, without further ado, let's paint a woodpecker together. Okay, so here is the setup that we're going to be using today. We have our Stay Wet palette. There's other colors from other paintings still on it, but we're just going to use the same paper. So, you know, some of these are different mixes, but they're mostly of these 5 colors in titanium white. Today, because I'm really low on our magenta, it's a pretty empty bottle, we're going to do a little swap and actually have a crimson hue instead. So these are going to be our colors that we're using entirely to paint our woodpecker today. So we're going to get a little bit of a refresh on our palette of some of these and see how they look. That's a nice bright red. Maybe we'll put the yellow where it was before. I probably don't need too much blue, so there's a little bit here, so maybe don't need a restock. Same thing, we still have some black. So I think this white is a little bit old. All the times I refill from the really giant bottles, but my main white that matches the newer type of bottles is actually in my plein air setup at home. There's a community we've been painting with every Thursday up the Bruce Peninsula, and that's been really, really such a joy. So, okay, in sketching our woodpecker, here we go. Half an hour quick painting. Where to start? Let's get some of this branch in. Okay, so we are just mixing up a brown with some of the color and paints left on our palette. Do a little quick sketch here. Right, and we are ready to start. So the photo is in landscape. But there we go. The branch comes up this way and then follows up. Before splitting into around the top. Something like that. Add a bit more water to the paint because the wood's really absorbing it. There's not even a top coat on this for this very quick painting, really capturing the spur of the moment motivation to create something for everybody here today. Okay, so that's kind of got some of the login for now. then we're going to go in with a white gray. And just try and get some of these other shapes in. So the woodpecker's body comes along like this. Down here, you get some of the feathering, the feathers over this branch. Okay, we're just gonna go for it. I'm starting a little bit smaller than I think the bird actually is, just to have lots of space if we have to go back into it. But yeah, and then those feathers come this way. Okay, so in 2022, a lot of comments on my videos that I've published back then that are what most of my channel is alive and well from. A lot of the comments are requesting more real-time footage. So it's definitely something I want to check out and explore a bit more with you all. But the problem is the last 4 years, I haven't really recorded intentionally for it. So it'll be a mix of real-time and time-lapse footage in my backlog. And I think that not being quite ready like that is part of my, I don't know, fear of posting new ones, which shouldn't be, but it, I don't know, it's hard. I had an easier time starting than I do upkeeping with posting on them. But anyway, we're trying to get some color in the head here, just to get some of these shapes in. It's kind of a darker red in this area. Main thing to prioritize when you're doing the initial kind of stages of a painting is the direction and length of your strokes, matching the textures in the animal that you're painting. So the main features we're seeing on the photograph is the body of the bird, and then also this incredibly striking wing pattern, which we'll get to in a moment. Right, and then this stuff, we can start claiming some space for. So the wing shape itself really folds back this way. But there's a lovely dark feather right here we can put in. Already this has gone too low in the chest, so we're noting that we're going to have to bring that back up a bit. But really, the only difference from going from painting like this to, you know, a more polished piece is time. You can layer, you can repaint over things. Don't be intimidated by it, just keep trying stuff. And part of the fun of using one brush is that it's one less decision that you have to think about. And it's really fun to do a quick study like this with a time limit. I highly, highly recommend it for everybody because you make decisions faster. I'm already jumping around, like now we're blocking in the beak and just using straight black to put it in. Where normally I'd, worry a bit more about mixing black and the underpaintings and all of that. So we're really just trying to simplify and take a lot of the thought process out of it and just get some very quick progress going before we can refine it. Okay, so the neck's gonna come down this way. There are some darker feathers in and around here, but because I kind of have a light gray on my brush, we can dry brush some of that darker color in a little bit. Although it is more blue in the shadows. And I think even in here a little bit, we can get a little bit of the darker color in. Does this look good right now? No, but it's all part of the process. Okay, and then that's gonna be up a little higher. This is pretty much a striking black edge along this length. Very cognizant of that if I paint this all black, it will take many layers of white to recover. But that being said, you have to get some land markers in. So if that from this corner of the top of this black pattern, this comes about a third down, then those wings should end at around here. Little sweeps of the pattern that come in. Sometimes I do a lot of this sketching in chalk, but this canvas is way too small to bother with that process. Okay, and then we really want to get this nice tapered shape in. Okay, so of the wing pattern at the back, there's kind of a big sweep around here that comes down where it's like this looser, more fluffy feathers. Then you get a bit of a sweep this way that comes up. There's a secondary one here that goes up to kind of the inside edge of that. And then there's some other little sweeps this way. Okay, so then this bottom one's kind of like that, and then you get these like long tip of the wing feathers that kind of fold inwards. And then I feel like all of this just comes down and in around. Okay, and then you have your big kind of tail plumes at the bottom that go off. But the pattern of the bird is going to be definitely the most challenging part of this painting to pull off. And then you have all of these beautiful ribbons up before a very striking dark pattern of feathers that goes down. So this is kind of like a loose block in and like placeholder sketch of certain features. Now what we get to do is go through and do a little bit more polishing. And we're gonna start the second layer. So I'm gonna go back to working on the wood because it's gonna be behind the layers of the bird. But I'm pretty happy with like the proportions. It's a little bit wider, but it's good enough for what we're doing right now. And you get some of this darker wood in. There's there's this cool branch that's going to offshoot around here. That was too wide. That's all right. I never used to like painting wood, but it's really, really grown on me. It's not wood is like the canvas, but wood is in like branches and other textures. I kind of used to think they were a bit of a waste of time when I could just be painting, you know, animals that are the real star, but the habitat context cannot be overstated. It's so important to have that skill and to be able to change it on the fly, to work with paintings as you want them to really highlight your subjects. Okay, so we're focusing on getting the darks in here. Probably more than I would have just gone for it, but that's all right. Get some more of the lighter wood color. I'm also going to paint the edges because I love that. Just think it adds such a fun effect. It's fun with this video doing the voice as we go here. Not sure what the quality is going to be like, but it's interesting for me because normally I just do the voiceovers separately in all my other like past videos, so why not? No, we shouldn't curve on that edge. That's fine. Good enough. Yeah, I'm pretty much caught up on my commission queue, which is exciting to get to dive into YouTube videos and stuff. It's been about, oh, if it's June, no, it's July now. My daughter's been back in daycare since February. So it's fun having some time to really think about YouTube and where I want to go with it. And yeah, I'm excited to revamp this and get a lot of stuff posted. I have so much stuff filmed. It's absolutely absurd. I don't know whether I should just go in chronological order, if I should go based on what my favorite paintings are. I don't really know. So if there's any shorts or anything you've seen that you're like, oh, I can't wait for this one, please post, and then maybe that'll give me some inspiration on what direction to take it in. It's really surprising to me, like YouTube's been like unlike any other social media platform. Most of my sales end up being through LinkedIn, surprisingly enough, which is incredibly fun. Well, I guess the galleries I'm in is kind of catching up to that, but the algorithm on YouTube really has such a long content tail. Like if you put up a video on YouTube, some of them that I posted all of them that I posted in 2022 are still getting views. So we're over 3,000 subscribers now, which is crazy because the last time I posted a YouTube video, we had like a few hundred. So it's crazy leaving it for a bit and then seeing that growth that's kind of happened without you actively doing anything. Whereas Instagram or anything, you really have to work consistently for it. I don't know. It's just been like a wild experience to have in the background, and I felt obligated for quite a while to get all of the footage I have filmed edited, but you know, 2 young kids and YouTube doesn't really, you know, make any money right now. So in my limited amount of time, it's hard to do it over paid projects when you're trying to make your mortgage and have 2 young kids. So we're now going to get into green. This is a green that I just have mixed here. It'll be some combination of the blue and the yellow-orange azo. Probably with a little bit of brown and black to get some sort of loose thing in there. It's a little bit warm for the moss on the tree, but I can't really be bothered to paint, to mix something else. So we're gonna add a little bit of moss here, just using that color. And dab it in a few places to get some color in on this branch. And then we can always adjust it a little bit as we go. This is where the texture of your canvas really can aid in doing something like this, because now with the moss, you want that texture to come through. So if you don't fully, you know, have it really wet to dapple into, it doesn't really matter because it's a natural, you know, bumpy texture that we're trying to capture. We'll get some more of this light highlight there on this edge. And we've pretty much painted this branch. Just using this brown, we've mixed a green and a white. Very just like 3 colors, super simple. Get a little highlight on this bottom part. Okay, hopefully that fixes the lens there. All right, so there is a bit more of a light highlight along this edge here and this top edge here, as we do have a soft backlight. Where else would be beneficial for us? Okay, so now we're gonna add a bit of warmth. Just take this brown, which is the transparent burnt umber. Although because there's some white in the palette here, it's not gonna be fully transparent, which is totally fine. There we go. And then that'll kind of warm up the green in some places too. And doing a wash of this, just kind of adding like a cohesion to the branch. I love transparent paint. It makes it look like you've mixed 10 colors for mixing one and just not applying it everywhere. So that highlight that we put in is adding this to being a light brown, and the shadows making it a dark brown. But this whole thing is starting to look a little bit more like wood. Okay, good enough for the tree. Actually, we're gonna add a very small amount of light green moss. Probably right here. Nope, the yellow did not go well. It was a good color, yes it was. A little bit up here. There's a denser patch right there. Yeah, that'll be fine. And then the silver. You could really spend 2 hours just on the branch, but that's not our goal today. So another like 1 minute and we will move on with our lives. Just double checking these edges before we leave this part. Okay, good enough. Done to done. Okay, so going back to the bird. We are gonna bring in some of this beautiful white color and also some of this gray of the beak. So we want to make sure we really preserve the crispness of the edge of the beak here. But there's this beautiful silver highlight at the bottom in its backlit form. Yeah, looks good enough. The eye is going to be hard to do with this brush. We're probably going to have to paint it a few times. It's definitely not the right shape, but it's hard to paint a little dot, so hopefully we can like bring in the feathers around it and that'll look a little bit better. But if we take some straight white now, this has a really interesting little fluff on the chin, which we're not really going to get to capture on this light background, which is a little bit of a shame, but you know. Nice little divot that comes in up there. This photograph actually might be used for a mural downtown here, so chose it as a little bit of a study ahead of time. It's always good to paint, you know, your subjects a little smaller and then see what works I'm not painting the background of the wall, but it's a medium gray. Part of the reason why I chose this photograph is I think I won't have to do too much changing to the lighting in it, which will hopefully be good. Okay, so this is like a very narrow section that elongates down, which is hard to pull off here. But we do have a little bit of orange down here that should help define the face a little bit, add some contrast to that highlight below. And these feathers are quite orange up here. Yeah, that's adding a little bit of lovely warmth back in. And then I think this dark red comes in and hugs this eye a bit closer here. Okay, so this orange fluffs a bit, but otherwise I don't think this needs to go any higher. So we got to be careful of that edge. Smooth out some of those darks. And then we need this lighter orange color along this top edge, even lighter actually. Okay, yep, that's a bit better. Such small adjustments in shape right now are making quite a large impact on how closely the bird is matching the reference image, which is quite intriguing. This area is quite dark. I always like to paint, different elements darker than they are, because white pulls so beautifully. And I love it for the last bit of detail feathered work. Can really just layer in that texture so well. Get some of these feathers in. Transparent paint is so incredibly special because you can isolate what you're working on. I don't have to worry about color right now because I can do a wash over it and nail the color after the fact in this stage. And then there's really bright white that comes along the chin there, but also back in here is very bright. And that sets up some of the definition of their cheekbone in there. Cool. Okay, this is my favorite part. This is when the magic happens. So in here we have this dark red color that we can bring back in, and you can still see that beautiful texture underneath. But don't go too close to the edge, because at the edge it transitions into that beautiful orange. Even this is too cool a red for what we really want, which is fine because we're going to do a wash of the orange over everything, and that'll help correct that. Okay, so now we've even added a bit more of the yellow in. It's kind of too close to the screen. It's affecting it a bit, so we're gonna start over. We don't really want this final little bit to be green at all, so I'm gonna mix this color on the other side. Okay, and we're gonna see what it looks like. It is that like pale pink color at the top. So we're just gonna do little dabs, not put this color everywhere in here, but see if that makes some of the difference. Yeah, that's turning out quite nicely. And this part's a little bit more orange. Although a little bit too fluffy there now, but you know, whatever. That's definitely too yellow for the chin patch there, but that's all right. Okay, and then now we're gonna do a little bit of the yellow underpainting in the bird's body, because that'll get diluted out when we're going over it with white here in a minute. Cool. Okay. A little bit of brown around the face. Okay, I like this little peak at the back corner of their eye. I think that's quite special to put in. And now we're gonna go in with straight white and add some sparkle. So this extra contrast is going to really make it pop and helps us nail the final shape. And then other areas of white feathers around the eye, right up here, into the very top of the beak here. We can lighten this orange edge, makes it a little bit less noticeable at the top. Okay, so now just kind of dragging the brush in the one right kind of direction to get some of that softer texture in. And this is staying that kind of natural gray spot. And then some of these highlight feathers come in right about there. that light red pink color. And then add the saturation back in once you get the texture. This is the part too where the size of your painting really matters. This is such a small little sketch, it really limits the amount of details that you can put in. But that's totally fine. Okay. All right, and then let's make it alive before we move on. We're gonna do a little glint right there. That was massive. Way too big. So we're gonna do a little bit of a correction on that. Just with a little bit of water on your brush only, you can kind of erase it a bit. There. It's better level of sparkle. So we do have a little bit more of this creamy color in the cheek that we can put in, and it's kind of up here too. It's a lot of really like good warmth and depth, and it's fun being able to play with that now that we're kind of happy with the shape of the face. Okay, and then we're going to come down here to the rest of the bird. So we've kind of got the head in a place that we can move on now from that. In doing the patterns, there's kind of a few main arcing lines that we can see here that we're going to try and capture. If I was doing this as a longer study, I would really count and chalk everything out, but we're just going to do quick estimations here. So on the back, this first kind of section, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, kind of 7, 8, 9, I think. And we're just gonna go for it. So my brush is having a slight curve one way, if you can see that, which makes me having to paint it this way so that I preserve that kind of pattern and shape. Just kind of going up and down, keeping soft edges on both the top and the bottom will help appearance of feathers. Build that texture in right from the beginning. Don't do a straight line across. It's a really big aid to you, and you won't be cursing yourself later. One, two, three, four, five, six. Okay. You know, we're just gonna loosely get it. This black paint's a little old, so it's not really spreading the best. But alas, that's what we're working with. Okay, and the pattern kind of shifts over here a little bit as we get into that other wing. It's a little bit more jumbled. I really have no idea if this commentary is helping anybody, but if anything, hopefully it's a fun tutorial to kind of follow along. Although I really am jumping all over the place, but probably polished the head more than I wanted to spend like that early on in the painting, but I actually feel like that's probably how I would paint the mural, to have one area that's a bit more done while everything else kind of looks not great. Easier for when people are walking by your work. You can at least kind of see where it's going when it's a public project. Okay, and then this pattern is very cool because it's like little triangles instead of a band. So 1, 2, 3. And then you can really see the line of individual feathers in this part. Makes it more, that was a big brush stroke, more kind of checkerboardy. Okay, and then this goes back into those bigger sweeps. Or right before ending up there somewhere. I'm gonna mix in a bit of water with this black because it's not really running very well. Could I pour more new black paint? Absolutely. I have leagues of it in my studio, so just don't feel free to throw out paint. It's, I don't know. I really try and just use all the paint I pour. I don't, it's not even from like a financial standpoint. It's just, I don't know, old habits die hard maybe. Okay, and then these ones really slant on this different direction. Like that. And that's how you can kind of see the difference on that texture. And then these ones really come in at this big boulder direction. Okay, and this is a very bold black. Same with that feather, and some of these ones down below. And then these stripes kind of start from there. Although, yeah, I think we gotta go up this way more. I think our bird's looking a little bit skinny. Yeah, and then it tapers down from there. Okay, that looks better. Yep. This is difficult to do with a big brush. I know this looks kind of messy, but I can kind of see where the different transitions are. That's all that really matters at this stage. Then we'll figure it out from there. There's that. Then this comes down a little bit further. All right, we are rocking and rolling. The black and white pattern immediately makes it look a lot more woodpecker-ish, which is fun. So now we're gonna take the white and just start filling in some of the spaces. Yeah, something like that. You can see that the black really shows up on the white a lot more. So we're probably gonna have to go over that a few times. But sometimes I add pure white pigments in my paint, and that really helps. Gotta remember to keep my lovely black feathering that I did there. Now we're gonna lose some of it. It's okay. We'll go back in black again. Then this is a very clear line that ducks up this way. But first, let's get rid of this because that's confusing me. Yep. Pull that highlight up a bit. Yeah, that works. I need to highlight this a tiny bit more up here. Too much. Okay, this is turning it. So if the body goes down like this, then it starts to flare here. That cuts in a little bit more. We're about an hour in, but I will still publish this today, no matter what. We're just throwing it out into the universe and then break the YouTube hiatus streak, and then hopefully we can get back into posting more regularly soon. These ones kind of come down. There's this area of white that's quite noticeable. Yeah, something like that. There's a little tip of white down here. This is more banding. These black feathers end white, they're white tipped, which is what's creating this pattern on the bird. So it's kind of interesting to look at like an individual feather, like these tail feathers, and then you can kind of see that. It can help kind of decode the pattern in the feathers a little bit for you. But this black comes over top, so like you gotta pay attention to where it's overlapping from. But it is quite complicated. Was this the best quick demo choice? Probably not, but I hope you're enjoying it. Yep. And this row goes this way, although it is thinner than that. Try and use the edge here, but I'm very committed to this one brush tutorial. Yeah, looks something like that. Okay, and then this next row is more angled like that. For a minute. This curve in my brush is driving me crazy. It normally really adds to the effect, but it's, oh, whoops. It's hindering me in this instance. Because white's so hard to cover, I know my last layer here is gonna be black. So I'm really just trying to get it as bright as possible in the areas that it needs to be. And then the black was feathering quite well on the edges, so we'll hopefully be able to repair the texture in one layer. If not, we may have to go back and forth a little bit to really get the edges of these individual stripes where we want them to be. Okay, that's the last of that row, about halfway down. Yep. Okay, and then these need to be brighter. Get all that wood yellow texture in here gone. This part comes down in a different pattern here. I was just kind of going for it there. I wasn't looking at my reference for a second. But the angle changed. Oh well. Okay, so the next big sweep down here is the curve that goes like this. So I want to make sure that gets in as like an easy landmark. It went too far into this black ridge, so I'm gonna have to pay attention to that when I fix it. Okay, so I'm squishing my brush together, trying to fix and get a really narrow corner. Just a little bit of paint on the edge there. And we will see if this works better. Because these are very narrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stripes in the pattern. Kind of 3 main ones along this edge. I mean, it's all kind of looking like a jumble. I feel like it's improving. Sometimes when I feel like I'm really, you know, struggling with a pattern, I'll take a photo and then a half an hour later another photo and compare the two and be like, oh yeah, that is better. So it's really just trusting the process, little bits at a time. Okay, and then we get into this big section and then that. Okay, so a few things on this area to correct the color now. There are some reflections on the bird. There's a little bit of a blue shadow over here. So we can actually use a little bit of purple. Not too much. We're gonna keep this watery. It's gonna be mixed in with a little bit of green there. Oh, random fuzz on the palette. Okay, so that is gonna soften the purple because these are contrasting colors. This purple color, we're gonna bring into this center area. to kind of dull the brightness there. We're also going to bring in to some of the wing around the edge. And then also in this, we're going to do a little bit of an underpainting of this like more green blue. But very subtly. You can tell this paper needs to be replaced because it's kind of pulling a little bit, but this is such a bold blue. We don't really want to have to repaint the white in the whole thing, but we need some contrast in here for the colors. It's going to make the red stand out more. Don't be afraid of colors, even the ones that you don't see. Having this here is going to make the whole thing work a lot better. I mean, I hope. Because it's too late now. Okay, there's that. Now we're going to take this lovely warm orangey-ish stuff and bring that in over here again in a darker form because it's a lot more obvious. That's kind of mixing naturally to get that green that we see more prominently in there. And for the overall shape, the head does come down a bit more. We have to adjust the shape here a little bit. It comes down more like that. And then out, and then the bird's back comes here a bit more. So as you paint, you're gonna notice more changes and more things to adjust, which is kind of essential to do early on in your patterns, because right now we haven't quite locked in this pattern yet and like the texture on it. So always make sure you're like zooming out and looking at the big picture before you get too carried away in a painting, because certain things get really difficult to change partway through. But I think we've done a lot of really great colors in that wash. So now we're going to extend this red out to where we've identified it fits a bit better. Let me just check the camera wasn't super shifting. Yeah, that looks good. We need to fix this back shape. It needs to come out probably to here to really we don't want we want our bird nice and plump and healthy. So it's more just these upper rows that need to come out a bit. Yep, and then we can add in texture of it. And that edge here is probably where some of the brightest whites are. And they add a lot of lovely contrast to our background. Okay, and then it kind of gets plump, and then as we get into this wing band and the pattern changes too, we really see that shift in sleekness, where it pretty much is just a drop down. Okay, that should be good. Then over here, we just want to bring in some of that texture. Long, loose strokes, really feathering the end of this. It's slightly too watery, but that's all right. And that'll lighten up those undercolors. Bringing in a really bright white too. Okay, that should be decent enough. The one con of this is this black has to come in further. And these stripes have to pinch in more. Yeah. I think that should be okay. This one here has a lovely tapered point. I wonder if I can catch that with this brush. Yeah, a little bit. Okay. So where else to do now? Let's add some little bit of gray. In here is very feathered, very dark comparatively, so we can really blur out this little bit of the wing. Add a little bit more of that texture. Okay, so now we're gonna go back in with the dark black, the one that we've added a little bit of water to. Yep, at the bottom here. So now that we're on our, getting to be our final layers of these bands, really trying to pay attention to the individual shape of each one. Where they kind of come down, paying attention to where this like white edge is. The black band is slightly thicker than the white band. Just all these little details that you're noticing and noting. And even if the brush doesn't do exactly what you want, we can always go back and add more white and give it another chance. Although the coverage of the white is a frustrating part. Well, we're better off than we were 20 minutes ago. That's all that matters. Even small steps backwards, it's still a net step forward. So just keep going with it. And then really a landmark for this is the eye drops down in line with that ending edge. So pretty much from here onwards, we're going to be getting into that different kind of shape and line work. But it is such a beautiful band. On the left there, you get really this striking, zebra-ish pattern, and I think it's beautiful. Woodpeckers are such a stunning animal. Well, here's a question for everybody. Music in YouTube videos, yes or no? Sometimes I listen to things on faster speeds, so I generally dislike it, but had added it to most of mine because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. So I'm interested to hear what people's opinions are. I don't think I'm gonna add music in a video like this, especially because it's not already sped up to any degree. So if people are, wanting to fast forward through sections, I think it would be quite annoying to have music, twiddling on at you. Okay. So this is really an edge at the top that is dark, that drapes down into this feather. And then we need quite a dark edge line here that needs to match up with these lines. comes to more of a point. I don't think that's too low. I think it's actually okay. The stick is definitely wider though. Do I bother fixing that? Probably not. Okay, now because it's getting tricky, I'm gonna get rid of this black. Too gluey. One thing that could be cool is if you know my work from other social media platforms, let me know what painting you want to see a tutorial for like the most. I have them all recorded, so it's easy. I don't know if I should do chronological or if I should just go by requests. I think either would be fun, so let me know if you have a strong preference there on what you want to see. Okay, I'm not sure how to do this section with the sweeps. even the white sections that were painted, I'm not quite happy with. But it's kind of like that main one, and then this main line up. But those are a bit wider than they should be. That's right there. We'll have to go back in with some white. Okay, we're getting there. Oops, shoot. Drop the paintbrush. So if we act fast, we should just be able to get rid of that with a little bit of water. Although using dirty water is not ideal. So, distinct feather lines. Right down here, there's a bright one there, a bright one about there, and a bright one about there. An angled one there. Just really trying to keep these white highlights clean. And if we don't get every line, doesn't matter. We will have the pattern recognized enough for the species, which that's definitely a goal. Okay, so that one there is brighter, that one's brighter. This is like a little half one there. Then we have about here, that main line, that's this little texture up that swings up. Same with the line above it. I'm really liking the way that this brush is pulling the paint right now with that little feathered edge. So I'm going to use that to create some of this other texture that's needed back in the bird. So don't be afraid to let your brush inspire you in certain situations. I think just leaning into this lovely texture it's giving us right now is going to be a big benefit. Especially this like inside edge that gets really kind of fuzzy here. And then we can always do another wash in black after. Whereas like this is a lot less feathery than in here is. So that hopefully is going to be a pretty big asset to us. This feather also has a line like that. Okay, so just looking at this, if we do a little check-in, this area has very high contrast. This is lower contrast, which is kind of counterintuitive because when you have a rounded shape, normally this part would be highest contrast to get the kind of dimension. So it's going to be an interesting thing to consider. We need this to look like two separate lines in here. So offsetting the pattern very slightly is going to help with that. Okay, that preserves this curve. And then this curve down here, where all the white tips kind of match up, is what creates that illusion. I do think that's two of the important patterns to really nail the wing shape of this. Very complex pattern. But we're almost out of close here. Really just looking for any areas that still look a little untidy. And then what we can do to kind of make them pop a little bit more. Like down here, these very thin, narrow bands of white. Just making sure that the pattern matches. Loosely, anyway. Okay, and then this one comes this way. So many tiny adjustments and tweaks. There's not too much to say here because it's just looking and seeing what doesn't look quite right. Like I want this curve to really be visible. So we're following the pattern of individual feathers as they go up along it. It's a bit too dense in the white, but at least it's kind of in the same areas. And then this is where that cool checkerboard pattern shows up, which is really hard to pull off with this brush. But I think that's kind of as close as we can get that. And then this is that last main arch upwards before it gets into this bottom checkerboard. So there's too much white. We need to open up some of the space for the black feathers. Otherwise though, I'm pretty happy with how this pattern is turning out. So we are hoping to just do one more little layer in black here. And then go back into colors. That got a little too fluffy on me. A little brush happy, that's okay. I do think I feel really good about having filmed this today. It's just nice to go from nothing posted to so long to having something on the internet. And maybe this will turn into something bigger one day. So I'm recording this now after the fact in editing. So I just wanted to pop on here. It got a little bit noisy in my studio with some of my neighbors talking and the walls are kind of thin. So decided to mute that and just kind of do a little bit of a re-record. I probably have, I don't know, 40 paintings fully filmed. Like, it has been such a goal when I came off mat leave with my son. He was born September 2022, that I was going to go and catch up on my backlog of these 3 big paintings that I had done with him. There's the giant horse, the giant elephant, that some of the shorts from that went a little bit viral, and also a giant whale. So the giant whale got juried into the Artists for Conservation Festival that year, which is exciting too. Now in 2026, it's my 6th consecutive year getting juried into that art show, which is so wild and really exciting. So I really tied my, rope to their ship, and it's been such an incredible group of supportive artists. And those 3 big paintings, because I painted them during so many fragmented baby naps, they're really like for an hour and a half, maybe a 3-hour nap here and there, but it's such disjointed footage. And because like the mindset wasn't really a start to finish painting, there's a lot of back and forth in the process of creating those textures on that scale. I hadn't really created large paintings like those before, but the horse anyway turned out to be my first 5-figure painting sale, which was incredible. And that sale actually happened 2 days after my daughter was born, January 2025. So just the hours I spent with my son as a few months old painting that horse, to then have it be such an incredible start to maternity leave with my daughter. I have no words. It was such an incredible time to really not need to worry about finances for so many months, and not feel like I had pressure to really paint in those early months. So yeah, the stars align sometimes. That's one of the hard things about being an artist mentally. You have commissions, which are immediate money. You have murals, which are immediate, fabulous money. Murals always do really good. They're always kind of my fallback if ever we're short on cash. Just go pitch a couple murals, and they normally end up working out. Like, any artist should at least take a friend's kid's room and go play in there for a little bit, just to have something. I think it was my 4th mural ever. I had just advertised a few, and I did a very small one, 1 foot by 2 foot little animal figure for a local business, and got an inquiry off of it that ended up being an $8,000 project as my 4th mural I'd ever painted. So it there's just a lot of creative ways that you can make it as an artist, I guess, is the interjection of this rant. But it's wild, circling back to painting and recording paintings. These 3 big paintings, I kind of want to go in order. And I know that they're long awaited tutorials. People have asked me about them from different shorts and stuff. I've gotten emails about it. And yeah, I think they are on the queue, but it's intimidating to start. It's I think the horse alone is like 172 hours. Some would be filmed in time lapse, some would be real time footage, but it's a feat to like edit all of that and take it together. And also, I moved to my new studio, which has a lot more natural light. So it makes like the lighting very challenging. It goes bright to dark quite frequently in the time lapse videos. And that's just a lot more unsatisfying than like the stable artificial light I had for the other videos that are currently posted on here. So I'm just not sure. I don't know. It's hard to go back a few years when the quality is not what you'd want. But I do think that there is such valuable, things I can share during them. So I'm probably just going to go for it one day. But, anyway, all this to say, this is a lovely ramp up into just getting out there. The last time I started this channel, I was just painting one painting a day and editing it and putting it out there one a day. And obviously I didn't get to 32 or 31 paintings during that challenge. It got to, I think, 22, something like that, which I was still quite happy with, doing both goals at once. So I don't know. I think hopefully we'll just be able to take a month here and deep dive into organizing, editing all of the footage from a couple mural projects maybe, and just fully commit to getting as much of it published and out in that 1 month as possible. Not even worrying about like scheduling it, just going for it. But okay, so this was a good few minutes on the background of my YouTube channel and some of the thoughts in the considerations there. But at least right now, my commission queue is really short. I am currently in the studio looking at 2 pet portraits that I'm painting this week that are going to be shipped out to Vancouver, which are also wonderful. I also just finished a cottage commission, so that's kind of giving me a little bit of leeway here. This beautiful woodpecker was an idea I had downtown driving here because there's a lovely wood shop that's a non-for-profit, like collaborative place that people can go and learn skills. And I just love what they do to share the arts with our community. And I wanted to, help them. And also I really wanted to put a giant animal somewhere publicly around town. I just think that'd be so fun to see more animals around our lovely city, surrounded by the Niagara Escarpment and all these beautiful hiking trails, and really like lift the downtown area up with something. So it's just really funny to me that it's going to be a woodpecker on the side of a building that has a wood shop in it. And I love that they loved the idea. So it's currently being voted on this week by the city. Fingers crossed that everything goes through with that and other logistics, and hopefully it'll be done there in like the next month. And then that would be a really fun video to post as like a follow-up to this, seeing me put it huge where it's like a human-sized woodpecker. Yeah. But we are really just going back and forth on this feather pattern quite a few times here. Looking at the footage, I've tried to zoom in a bit, but obviously if we do one of these again, I'll set up the double camera system and use my DSLR to record the painting footage, and we get some really sharp, better resolution in here. But we're still posting this no matter what. All right, so the black and white pattern is really coming along here. So now all we're gonna do is add a little bit of dry brushing to get this lighter transition part. It's a little more fluffy in the reference photo, so. Yep, and then that makes this transition of the wing a little bit more obvious and striking. The pattern on the wings here is so beautiful, but so complicated to get with a brush this size. I'm sure somewhere in the video it talks about the brush size, but I can't remember saying much about it, so we'll dive into it again here. I'm not going to listen back to the whole 2 hours of, my ramblings when I paint. Probably make me more self-conscious to post anything. But I just wanted to keep it accessible, and doing a number 7 filbert, yeah, that's what it says, is normally I paint with a 10, so it's a slightly bigger than this, but it you can do so much with a rounded brush. You can use the corner of it to get some little details in. It is a limiting factor here in the amount of details I can get with these feathers. Some of them are really quite small, and like if I was going to really perfect this woodpecker here, I would probably take a liner brush right at the end and clean up any areas that I thought needed to be like the smaller checker pattern transitions between the black and white. But it's such a fun challenge to do a whole painting with one brush. You just learn a lot. You learn a lot of how to move the brush. You learn a lot of how to create different textures with one brush. And it's one less thing to think about. You can really focus on your colors and your eye looking back and forth. So highly, highly recommend. We're adding a little bit of a highlight to the chin here. It's hard to capture that backlit lighting. Luckily, the wall I chose this reference photo for is a, kind of medium gray. So I think it's just gonna really pop amazingly. I might add a drop shadow to the mural if it ends up happening. But here on such a light wooden background without like a underpainting or anything, it's really hard to kind of see that backlighting. Also, it's quite easy to see now that the reference photo is directly beside the painting. I was just looking up and down to my laptop and sketching from it, but the angle of the head was quite different, and that was really throwing me off when painting and getting the proportions of the back. But the best part about painting animals is we know them a lot less than we know human faces. So they're incredibly much easier than portraits. And whenever you finish your painting of this, I'm assuming you're going to try and paint along if you're this far into the 2-hour video. Nobody's ever going to see the reference photo side by side to it. No matter what areas you're seeing now with your artist's eye, it's going to look so much better to you with a little bit of time and space between knowing what the reference photo looks like and just knowing what your painting looks like. And nobody else is going to really see them side by side. So any details that you're really focusing on now in trying to capture your reference photo, whenever you feel done and satisfied with your painting, somewhere in this, area and zone of these little tiny tweaks to make it a bit closer, whenever you decide to call it and say, you know what, good enough, it will feel so much better with a little bit of time. Time really does make you fall in love with your pieces when you're a bit too into it. So that's my philosophy anyway. There's so many things where I'm like, oh man, I got to fix this, I got to fix that. And then if another, project comes up or I switch to a different commission, all of a sudden it'll be like a few weeks later and I'm like, you know what, I think it is done. Like you just don't want to go back into it mentally. And that's fine. So it's really just the tiniest slight adjustments here underneath the chin. Just building up some of that feather texture a little bit. Adding some details in like a very light pink or yellow. And then going back over it with the white or the red. Also to try and just perfect the eye shape here a little bit. Getting a little bit of the darker glint at the bottom. Yeah, and again with the beak shape, not super happy with it, but it's on this type of canvas material, we can't really go back and change it. So it is what it is at this point. It's interesting recording this in editing for this last little bit that I just don't really know what to say. I think time lapse is easier to do this for because there's more stuff happening. I feel like there's not that much to say. You just go back and forth, like adding a little bit of that yellow glow to the edge of the feather to capture some of that backlighting here and to warm up the tones in the texture. You know, it's really fun with such a black and white bird having this bright red head and coloration. Really fun to mix and catch. But at this point in the painting, it's really just tiny adjustments looking back and forth between your image and the photo. I'll resist the urge in editing to speed it up. If anybody wants to sit here for the whole thing, I would highly recommend just watching it at a multiple speed and seeing how these last few strokes change it ever so subtly. So I think I'm going to not chat for a little bit and let you do that if you want to. All right, so these are the last few final strokes here, just really getting some of that deeper saturation in. But otherwise, we are at the 2-hour time marker for this tutorial, so we're gonna wrap it up and call it a day. This was so fun to just film and paint really quickly, and even with some of the noise in the back and, you know, re-recording the ending probably 40 minutes of audio in post, mostly, it's been really, really fun to just do this start to finish, and I'm hoping to do more like this. So let me know what you think of this format, and if you have an ideal length, sounds great. If you have a subject matter, a species you would love to see, feel free to comment it below. And I think the next one I do is probably going to be on a black background so you can see a bit of the lighting. Also, the wood really absorbed a lot of the paint here, which is quite challenging to just paint on a whim. But fun because anybody can just go and get a wooden, you know, plank board and just go for it. Normally though, to prep wood surfaces, if there's a painting I was gonna like sell it, there's many layers of sealer. I would at least seal it with like GAC 100 or something to, you know, prevent warping or water damage in the future. But yeah, so probably should do a tutorial on that too sometime. Wooden surface prep. I got it from David Kittler. He's an Artist for Conservation member I took a workshop from in 2019, and he just had such fabulous ideas there. So anyway, here we go. This is the final woodpecker. Cute. Okay, hello. I just finished editing the video, doing a little bit of color correcting, and the voiceovers at the end, because there's a little bit of background noise that we wanted to cut out. It was a lot. Yeah, just thank you for watching this if you're still here and around. It's very different than the other styles of videos on my channel from, you know, back in the day, but quick cell phone only video to get us started and get some momentum here. So let me know what you think. Let me know other animals you want to see. I don't know if there's an ideal tutorial length, like maybe we do like half an hour to an hour paint alongs. Could be fun. I don't know. Any ideas, any feedback, let me know. And we'll see what we can do in the next few months here. But excited to pick it back up and get it started again. Also, I should probably mention, last November, I jumped on the school SKOOL community train and pretty much haven't advertised it yet. It's mostly like 45 mostly professional artist friends that I invited into the group for free, and we just hang out every 2 Mondays and talk. Quite excitingly, one of the members who joined got not only into Artists for Conservation this year, but got a painting accepted into the top 200, which is just so incredible. But I think there's about 10 to 15 of the like 500 Artists for Conservation members part of the group. So it does end up being a little bit centric on that. But anyway, it's called Wildlife Art School. Yeah, you can come check us out if you want to join and see it. I would really appreciate it and love to see you there. It's a really fun way to talk about it. We have a book club section where like people post inspirational YouTube videos from other creators here. They post books that they really like, quotes. So that book club tab is really a fun one to check out. There's also a critique cafe, so you can like see what people say about different paintings. What else? It's just such a fun platform, you know, to kind of navigate and keep organized on. So anyway, little ending about the school community, because I think it's going to be fun, and a way to support growing the YouTube channel, because I can do videos and kind of prioritize creating content for both the platforms at the same time. So yeah, otherwise I have a card of the month subscription. That's a great way to support my business, and I think it's like $8 Canadian, and it gets mailed internationally anywhere in the world. So that's a really fun way I've been able to stabilize my income as an artist. Highly recommend, if you're an artist watching, to start a card subscription. It can meet you at whatever level you're at. It doesn't have to be huge, but like the consistent little bit of income from your art with no need to sell it again, like just the reoccurring revenue is huge. So it basically pays for my entire studio and a lot of my monthly expenses. So then they don't eat into costs when I sell a big painting. You get to keep more of it, which has just been great mentally for me financially to do that. So anyway, last few minutes of my random thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And we will see you around YouTube, hopefully not with a 4-year time gap in lawn form content. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.